Welcome to the Songwriter Connection podcast, where we look at the craft of songwriting through the eyes of the songwriter. Each week, we make a connection with a music maker, listen to their songs, and hear their stories. From Nashville, Tennessee, here's your host, Dave Lenihan.
Well, hello. Thanks for the listen. Appreciate it very much. I have you to thank. This is our 60th episode that we've done on this podcast. Started it during the COVID thing, and good friend Len Harvey, who I worked with in Cincinnati radio, was the inspiration. And I thought, why not? We're in Nashville, as we said before, surrounded by songwriters, and I just wanted everyone to get a chance to tell their story. Also wanted to help with instruction and talk and just get into it. You may have heard our episode with Mark Allen Barnett, Under the Hood, where we wrote the song live on the podcast and told you how it went. So if you haven't, go back and listen to that. We are 120,000 downloads strong now in 27 countries at my last check of analytics, and I have you to thank. Thank you for spreading the word and getting it out there, putting it on your socials. If you're listening on YouTube, I know we're not a video podcast yet, but if you're listening on YouTube, please like and subscribe. We do publish every Wednesday morning, very early in the morning, so that when you get up on Wednesday mornings, you can have a cup of coffee with us and make a songwriter connection. How's that sound? I want to thank a local sponsor, Mark Allen Barnett, who's been on the show 3 times, a great mentor, a great writer, and one of my favorite performers here in Nashville. He can help you up your game 3 to 5 years in just one simple tour. That's what he's been doing for years, these Mark Allen Barnett tours, and they really are incredible. You can come into Nashville, kind of try it out, see what songwriting is like. He'll take you around, introduce you to people. He will help you on stage, make sure that you get to play a little bit, but you'll write. And you'll write with Mark. He'll give you like song by song instruction, line by line, word by word sometimes. He really will help you up your game. As I've said in the past, he's helped me with mine. I was used to performing behind a microphone, not on the stage in front of people. And he showed me how to do it and up my game incredibly, and can do the same for you. So if you want to check it out, Mark Allen Barnett, it's MARC Allen, ALAN, and Barnett is BARNETTE. And if you can't find him, contact me on the socials. I'll make sure you get in touch with, as we like to call him, Yoda. Right, you will, he'll always say. So anyway, thank you, Mark. Do appreciate you being a part of our show. Well, I mentioned we are in Nashville, Tennessee, but occasionally we go outside of Nashville, and we bring in writers from, Nashville's not the only songwriting capital in the world. There's New York, there's LA. We've got a songwriter today that broke on the West Coast, and she is absolutely amazing. We are so honored to have her. But I want to tell you a little bit about the great Molly Leikin here. She is the song doctor, the songmd.com. You talk about great mentors, this lady is. And she taught at UCLA. She's worked for 3 different publishing companies. Her clients that she works with, have had 12 Grammys, if you can imagine that. 19 more were nominated for Grammys. What honors those are. Molly has written with people like Katy Perry, Placido Domingo, Cher, Tina Turner, Billy Preston, Anne Murray, Dusty Springfield. John Travolta had a singing career for a while. All of these people are very familiar with Molly's songs and have written with her. She's an entrepreneur, a speechwriter as well, and she has 8 great books out there, one that just published yesterday that we're going to talk about. So there you go, a little bit on Molly Leikin, our guest today from Santa Barbara, California, on the phone. Hi, Molly. How are you? Welcome.
Hey, Dave. Thank you. I'm so pleased to talk to you today.
Oh, it's good to have you here. Are you tired after all you've done? Oh, my gosh, and you keep going. The things that you do are amazing.
Thank you. No, I'm just getting started.
I love that. You are, aren't you? Now, you are a published writer, and you came first to the United States from Canada, right? But you were born in the U.S.?
No, I was born in Canada.
In Canada? Okay.
And I defected to the U.S. during a 58 below zero blizzard.
Yeah, I would say that's different.
And I defected with my baritone ukulele.
Wow.
Because I was absolutely convinced that Joni Mitchell and Carole King desperately needed my 12 songs about Fig Newton.
Of course they did. Why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they?
And so I just arrived in town and said, well, I'm going to do this. And, of course, I did everything wrong at first. But then I worked my way in, and eventually became a staff writer at A&M, which is Almo.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, big time. And you came to the States at the time that a lot of people were defecting from the States to Canada to get away from Vietnam.
Yeah, I know.
And you entered a really interesting time in music out there on the West Coast, didn't you? I mean, it was an amazing time, wasn't it?
Well, there were kids standing on Sunset Boulevard with their guitars,
mm-hmm.
and they were singing, and if they got lucky, there was a traffic light and some music executive was in the car next to the traffic light.
Can you imagine?
And he'd hand him his card and say, he'd call me at the office, and he'd get a deal because it was a guitar voice time.
It was.
And it didn't cost anything to sign anybody, and people could take chances then.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's all corporate, forget about it.
Yeah.
But
it's
at
a different
that
world.
time.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But back then, it was fun and exciting, wasn't it? It was the time of the singer-songwriter, wasn't it?
It had just started,
mm-hmm.
and Tapestry was ruling the world.
Still one of my all-time favorite albums.
Me too. And, I actually supported myself as a social worker. And instead of getting my clients off welfare, they got me into the music business.
Really? That's interesting.
And only I would have this experience. But my job as a social worker was to contact the deadbeat dads or alleged deadbeat dads of my clients' children and get them to pay child support. So off I go, little Miss Molly from Canada, with no experience doing anything. And I'm knocking at the door of the accountants for Elvis and Paul McCartney and God knows who else.
No kidding. Wow.
Saying, show me the money. And they threw me out. But as I kept coming back, I kept bringing my baritone ukulele and singing a few songs for them, at which point they thought I was the Gong Show. Let's get rid of her.
The hook, right? Oh,
but
no.
Somebody in the Los Angeles County Department of Public Social Services wanted to be an actor, and Variety was delivered to his desk every morning. And he found a songwriter's workshop at Capitol Records.
Wow.
And he says, here, Molly, you'd be much better at this than you are at social work. Because I sat there with the phone off the hook, and I thought, I can't deal with this. So I auditioned for the songwriter workshop, and the guy sat there shaking his head, no, and I refused to leave.
Oh, boy.
And eventually he let me in. And that made all the difference in my life. He taught us how to write visually. He taught us how to write emotionally. And he would put a lyric on a screen, and he would circle the pictures in red. He would circle the passionate words in orange. He'd underline the double rhymes in yellow. And if you couldn't read the lyric at the end of the class, it was a hit lyric.
Wow. That's how he judged.
And to this day, I use that.
Do you really?
And I teach all my clients, my private songwriting clients, about that. Because it's not I miss you, baby, and it's raining.
Yeah.
It already rained.
That's right. And it's all about, I think, how you take the word no, and you didn't take the word no. You used it as a way to build on what you did. And because if we're not failing, we're not learning, right? So you just kept going.
Well, I guess that's true, Dave, and it's a good phrase. But I had no fallback position. I sure wasn't going back to Canada.
Really? Okay.
And
so had you come to the United States specifically to be a songwriter? Was that in your mind as you came here?
Yeah.
That was it?
I had my baritone ukulele with me.
Now,
and
for people who are not familiar with that instrument, Molly, what is a baritone ukulele? We all are familiar with the 4-string ukulele, and a baritone more of a bass?
Well, there's there's several kinds of sizes, and the baritone is the biggest.
Okay.
And the one they play in Hawaii, I think, is the smallest. Okay. There may be 4 or 5 sizes. And I adored that thing. I kept it on a hook next to my bed. That's all I did was write. And my first landlady in California was not at all interested in ukuleles.
No.
Nor my singing them.
Really?
And I'm often paid now not to sing, so you can imagine. And she would bang on the ceiling about shutting up that, as we say in French, goddamn banjo. And this went on, and I finally moved. But I never heard anybody say, play me a song. Would you please play me a song? And in my travels throughout the child support days, there was a writers' meeting every Friday afternoon at Warner Brothers at 3:00.
Wow. You go right to the top. Capitol, Warner Brothers. You didn't mess around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they had an open meeting, and anybody who wanted to come to the Warner Brothers Warner Brothers meeting could go. And I met a guy there named Artie Wayne, and he had a great big green blackboard. I guess, what do you call a green blackboard?
Green board?
A green board with a list of all the artists who were looking for songs.
Interesting.
And every week I'd write one and bring it back, and he didn't necessarily love it, but he appreciated the fact that I did the assignment and it kept coming back.
Wow.
And this went on for about 6 months. And meanwhile, all my friends and colleagues were getting signed as staff writers. So I mustered the strength to say, hey, Artie, I love working with you, but I turned down 2 gigs as a staff writer in other places just so I could continue working with you. And if the heavens ever opened, he said, come sign with me.
Yes. That's great. That's your first deal then, huh?
So I signed at A&M, and oh my God, I couldn't believe it. But they insisted I get rid of the ukulele and switch to the piano.
There you go.
They said, this is a professional songwriting company.
Yeah. Now, had you played piano in the past, or did you have to learn that?
Yeah, like everybody else, I took piano lessons when I was a kid.
So I'm just curious to the 2 that you turned down.
Oh, yeah. Well, it seems that I forgot their names.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
I actually made that up, too. I use my imagination wherever I can.
Well, of course you do. You're a songwriter, right?
Yeah, I'm not encouraging people to tell lies.
Right. But...
Well, anyway, it worked.
It worked out for you.
I haven't done it since because I think I used my one ace in the hole there.
Mm-hmm.
But it worked out for me. I was a staff writer for 10 years, and
wow.
Mike Stewart asked me what I wanted to do that I hadn't done yet, and I told him I wanted to write songs for movies.
And you do that?
And the next week, I got an assignment to write the theme for 8 Is Enough, the TV show.
You wrote the theme to that? Wow.
I wrote the lyric, yeah.
That's great. And you've had, we've talked in the past on this show about sync with television and movies, and you've done a lot of that. In fact, you wrote for the movie Violet, which won an Oscar, right, for the music score, and you had some songs in that, right? So,
yes, it pays to network because all crazy people in LA, and I guess that's most of the population, have a therapist. And my therapist had a client who came right after me who was a screenwriter. Mm-hmm. And she was studying at the AFI. And we became friends. She lived down the street, and she told me she was writing a feature for her graduation, what do you call it? Thesis, I guess.
Okay.
And I said, oh, do you need songs? Yeah, I need songs. Well, those things never have a budget. So I took her script, I went to Nashville, and I wrote the song score with Charlie Black and Rory Burke, and it won an Oscar.
That's fantastic.
Unbelievable. I mean, that's pure moxie.
That's fantastic.
That was a pretty big deal.
Now, what movie was that?
Violet.
That's the Violet movie. Okay.
Forgive me for not remembering who's in it. But it was based on a short story about a girl with a terrible scar.
Oh.
Who went to the preacher on TV to be healed.
Okay.
And when she gets there, they tell her, well, we finished taping for the year. And so she finds out they're really not what they said they were. And it was very sad, and she meets a soldier on the bus, and we wrote some beautiful songs.
Wow. Now, you mentioned you coming to Nashville in writing, but you were writing for a specific thing when you came for that movie? Was that the reason why you came?
Well, I was a staff writer at Chapel at the time, and I told my publisher that there was a song on the radio that I absolutely loved, and I wondered if he could hook me up with the writers.
Okay.
And the writers were Charlie Black and Rory Burke.
Okay.
And son of a gun, he set up the meeting. I flew to Nashville. Charlie and I wrote a lot of songs together and had a lot of records, many of them with Anne Murray.
Anne Murray. Yes, and Billy Joe Spears too. Did I read?
My first hit song was Silver Wings and Golden Rings.
Great song, yes.
Which was a big hit for Billy Joe Spears. And country didn't cross over at that time.
Not too much. No.
But I keep waiting for somebody to find that song and do it again.
Why not? It happens. It happens from time to time. Let me ask you this. What I was trying to get to is did you find a difference between writing in L.A. and writing in Nashville? Is there a...
Yes.
Okay.
Writing in Nashville is very intimate. And it's very much business-like. You meet at 10 o'clock at the office. You write till noon. You go to lunch. You see all the other songwriters. Then you come back to the office and finish your song. In L.A., you kind of schmooze, and when it's done, it's done. Unless it's an assignment. Now, the writers in Tennessee are just so honed and so brilliant that they can write a song in a day. And it's a great song. It sounds like it took a month to write because everything's perfect. The tune's just right. The rhythm's just right. The words are brilliant. In L.A., you may get the same level of songwriting, but it's not as big a deal because the songs are one thing in L.A., but what everybody really wants is the movies. However, now we all want the same thing, which is to get our songs in movies, to place them with music supervisors.
A lot of songwriters, especially here in Nashville, are striving for those sync deals, as we talk about. It seems to be that's where the money is today, huh?
It is. And in my book, Insider Secrets to Hit Songwriting in the Digital Age.
Just out yesterday.
Yeah.
By the way.
Thank you. There's a whole chapter on Robin Erdang, who is a multi-Emmy winning music supervisor. And she and her colleagues are the ones who choose the music that's used in all the movies and TV shows and media. So those are the people you need to know. And you have to make it your business to find out what they need and when. So I wouldn't send a rap song to somebody who's looking for a contemporary Christian lullaby.
Of course not.
No, really, it's all about, and you have to pay attention. Even though you love your song, that's say it's the greatest country song ever written. If they want Cuban Rastafarian zip songs, forget it.
No.
Give them what they want.
Know who you're pitching to.
Create what they want. And then down the road, when you're a star, you create what you want, and they'll all come running to you.
Interesting. Very cool. The Inside Secrets to Hit Songwriting in the Digital Age. That's the new one from Molly Leikin, and I hope that you'll look for it. It's an amazing book. Any other secrets you could kind of? I know we want people to read the book, but give us a little, taste, so to speak.
I'll give you another taste, which is really important. When I was writing the book, and I'm a very thorough person, I don't quit when somebody says, I don't know.
Yeah.
I keep going. And I actually, for 2 years, could not find anybody at any of the performing rights societies who would tell me straight out how much is a performance worth. Prime time, da-da-da, da-da-da. I don't know. There's too many variables. I thought, well, what am I going to tell my readers? They don't want to hear that.
Right.
So thank God for Todd Brayback and Jeff Brayback, who are attorneys and devoted to helping songwriters. I knew them back in the day when they were both lawyers for my publisher. And I was told that Jeff and Todd have the book that has all of this listed. And they gave me permission to use the whole chapter on where the royalties come from.
Wow, now that's
so amazing. I have a whole chapter on this is worth this, this is worth that. Chapter 4, I'd buy the book just for that.
Yeah, I would say. Very cool. That is nice. It's Inside Secrets to Hit Songwriting in the Digital Age, which I want to talk more about in just a little bit. I've just loved talking to you, Molly. You're just full of so much information. But I want to play one of your songs.
You,
yeah, because you write we've talked in the past how I hate genres. I hate saying you're a country writer, you're a reggae artist, you're folk, whatever. You write regardless of genre, right? It seems to me
I do. I like to stretch my shadow.
You do.
Because if you write the same style over and over, your gray cells are going to die.
Yes, they are. Yes. Well, tell us about this first one, Asia, Africa, that I'm going to play. Tell us about that one in the process.
Jack Durkin and I started out writing a song called While We're Still Here. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about seeing the whole world together. And it started out sounding like a nice ballad. Well, the world doesn't need another nice ballad. It's got plenty of ballads. I like to write something that's up-tempo, especially now because people are so desperate to lose themselves in the music on the air. So we had the lyric for the verse, and I thought, well, I'm going to need a killer chorus to get this out from being a ballad. And as I was walking in a rhythm, and the rhythm was Asia, North and South America, Europe, and Australia. And when we got to Europe and the boop, I actually tripped on a rock. So, yeah, you can't make this stuff up.
Did that make it a rock song? Now? I'm just kidding. I'm sorry.
That's funny.
I apologize.
No, but it gave it some. It turned it into an up-tempo song, and
wow.
I had a wonderful artist record it and play it for the people. I'm very proud of that one.
All right. Mm-hmm. All right, here we go. It's called Asia, Africa, written by Molly Leikin, our guest on the Songwriter Connection podcast.
And years are flying by. Gotta get out of this, lazy boy. Live with a roar, not a sigh. Ride a camel across the Sahara. Race a
Very cool song. I really love it, Molly. The gentleman's voice of like
Alvin Cher.
Is that his name? He's wonderful. You know, I've heard you say in the past that it all for you starts with a great idea. Is that still the case?
True.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Tell me about that.
It
you
all
talked about
starts with a great idea.
The great, and you talked about the idea there. It started with the groove for you, didn't it? As you were walking that pace.
No, it started with the John Durkin and I wanting to write a song about let's see the world together.
Oh, got it. Okay.
And we didn't want to write just another ballad, another pretty romantic ballad. So we wanted to get some tempo, and that's where. And by the way, with all these continents, I had to find something on each continent where we wanted to go. And I was very heavy with European content and American content. But, boy, it was tricky in all of Africa to find something that fit the meter and was not the ordinary climb Kilimanjaro thing.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So.
I wanted to talk a little bit about your mentoring service because that is really amazing what you do. Thank you. You taught a bit at UCLA. Was it songwriting you taught or music?
Yes, I taught the Songwriters Workshop at UCLA, and I had, you wouldn't believe who was in my class.
Yeah.
And one of my students in the very first class in the first row was Cheryl Benteen from the Manhattan Transfer.
How about that? Wow.
And she and I are still in touch, and I'm so proud of her. Anyway, at UCLA, all my students wanted private lessons. And I thought, So I became a consultant and a mentor to developing artists. My company's called Songwriting Consultants Limited, songmd.com, and I have hundreds of free blogs there. And I also invite new songwriters, especially lyricists, and especially songwriters who have been at it for a while but haven't quite crossed the success line yet, to contact me. Let's talk about your songs. Let's set up a private consultation by phone or Zoom so we can talk about your songs, and I will tell you what I think it needs or they need, so I can tweak them just a little bit and make them sizzle so they're as strong as they need to be in order to realistically compete with the very best songs out there. Because your songs have to compete with the very best songs out there. There's no shortage of good songwriters.
Oh, that is true. And I think if you want to be a songwriter, you've got to be serious about this to take it to the next step. It is quite the profession. It's also a craft that can be learned. But what I love about is your no-nonsense approach. You're a go-getter, and you pass that along to your students, don't you?
Well, I do, because having a great song is one thing, but then you have to network the heck out of it.
We've often said on this show,
you can't send it to Spotify and think, oh boy,
there it is. Yeah, it's out there.
I have a friend and a colleague who had 300,000 plays on Spotify and got a check for $18. So nuts. Don't expect that to be the answer to your songwriting prayers.
And
on the other hand, I was contacted by a guy on Facebook the other day who claims that he makes 6 figures a year from his instrumentals all over the place.
Okay.
And I said, well, okay, let's have a chat, and I'll write a blog about you. And he keeps avoiding it. So I'm not sure that he's making that much. But you never know. With hustle, you can do anything.
You sure can. We've talked about it on the show. It's not about who you know, more like who knows you. And you got to get them out there. And that's just part of the thing, is writing the great song. And then the other part of it is, who to pitch to. And I get that all the time. People say, how do I get my songs out there? You're right. You can put it on Spotify today, and there it is. And then I have written with an artist who has well over 1 million streams on her Spotify album. I have 3 songs on that, but it's made like $75 so far.
Yeah.
You're not talking about a lot of money, which brings me back to writing songs in the digital age. There's good and there is bad. I think the good part of it, Molly, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you can get your music out there pretty easily. It's out there, okay? But it may not make you a lot of money just because it's on the internet. The sad fact is we got paid as a songwriter for royalties, songs that were being played on the radio, still a big part of collections of your money, your BMIs, your ASCAPs, collecting those. But the other part was mechanicals.
I need to interrupt you, Dave.
Yeah,
There is a ton of money to be made. And in my book, Insider Secrets to Hit Songwriting in the Digital Age, I show you how to make money.
Yeah.
If people are saying, oh, I don't make any money, that's because you're not placing your songs in the right places. You're not hooking up with the right people.
Wow.
You can't just put your track on the web and say, well, here I am. I'm in the music business. No, you're not. You're an amateur who's putting tracks up and hoping for the best.
Right.
And you can't hope for the best. You have to do as much work networking and staying on it. And then the checks start rolling in. And you got to meet everybody. Those of you in Nashville have a much easier job than we do in LA because yours is an open door city. Writers are revered. Kings of Nashville are the writers. You got a song? Come on in. Let's hear it.
And there are a lot of places to play those songs and get them out there on stages and performing and stuff. So
yeah, and you never know if you're just at the corner at a coffee shop in Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm.
You never know who's going to walk in and hear your song and say, I want to use that for my Chevy commercial. I want to use that. I've got a new artist who has good songs, but not anywhere near as good as this one. It's all about being out there. And I have seen the current checks. And believe me, there's a great living to be made as a songwriter if you observe the criteria and know how to do it in the digital age, which is why I wrote the book.
I can't wait to read this book. It just came out yesterday. Inside Secrets to Hit Songwriting in the Digital Age. Molly Leikin.
And I interviewed some amazing people, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
First was Tim Whipperman, the publisher's publisher in Nashville.
Really?
And he told me what goes on in his office. And
can you tell us a little bit?
He's always. I'm sorry?
Can you tell us a little bit about what goes on in his office?
You'll have to read the book. I don't want to sound seamy.
Of course.
But he's a gracious guy, and he's all for the writer. Nice. Always for the writer.
I like
and
that.
Setting up the writer with another writer.
Love that
and you
too.
never know. You never know. Many of the biggest hits in his catalog have been collaborations that he's put together. And I interviewed, I interviewed Debbie Hepp, who was an unhappy housewife in Lexington, Kentucky, and she was vacuuming, saw Johnny Cash on TV, turned the vacuum off, watched the show, found the name of the music guy on the show. She recorded some songs in her furnace room, got her friends in the neighborhood to play washboards and one thing and another. She drove up to Nashville. She called Johnny Cash's office. They said, "Come on in, ma'am."
Wow.
And the guy actually sat and played her 5-song tape and said, "We like these 2, but the other 3 are too pop. So go down the street and see them." And within the day, she'd met with most of the big name A-list music people. in Nashville. That's unheard of. Does that happen
today?
She has... I'm sorry?
Is that happening today, or are doors more closed today?
Well, she didn't do it today, but, with the right hustle, you can go anywhere.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, the rest of the story is that she stayed in Nashville. She learned her craft. She collaborated with some great songwriters. And she had one song that this girl singer kind of liked, and it was in a pile for her. And the girl singer's producer was listening to songs when this guy came in. And he liked the song and said, I want to do that. Well, he did, and his name was Kenny Rogers, and the song was called You Decorated My Life.
How about
Number one Grammy, her first record. Now, I don't know anybody else who can say that.
Yeah.
But I know that story to be true. And if it happened to Debbie, it can happen to everybody else, too. You just need the moxie. You got to need the stick-to-itiveness. You got to schmooze. You got to network. You got to go to lunch. I would go to yoga classes where these people attend yoga classes. I know somebody who makes a point of going to church where her favorite publisher and rock star go to church.
Interesting.
Might seem a little on the off, but hey, she made the connection.
That's really something. And if I remember correctly, that was like her first song, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, it wasn't her first song, but it was her first hit song.
Isn't that incredible?
And her first record.
It's like
first record.
Like, how do you follow that? How do you?
Well, she had all kinds of hits.
Did she?
And I talk about that in my chapter about her.
I can't.
And
wait to
I
read
also interviewed Michael Silversher and Patty Silversher, who've had the most extraordinary careers writing children's music.
Oh my!
Everybody thinks, well, we're going to be pop. Well, while we were all being pop, they were doing children's songs.
How about that?
And they're still looking for places to invest their money.
We just had Sylvia on the show just a couple of weeks ago, big hit maker in the 80s, and she's on the Billboard charts again with a children's record that she did. And it's a fantastic, it's not just for kids, it's a fantastic record. If you missed that episode, go back and listen to Sylvia.
I will.
Yeah. Molly, I got to tell you.
I also interviewed Art Munson, who was a staff writer with me at A&M, and he now does production music.
Wow.
So he creates music for all kinds of TV shows where they don't use songs, but they need great production music.
Oh, yeah.
They don't want to, and he's cleaning up too.
Wow.
So you don't all have to be straight ahead pop or new country songwriters. There are options. Another guy in my book, Jim Andron, made a fortune writing jingles. He wanted to be a pop songwriter, and it wasn't quite working out. And he sees somebody in an elevator and da-da-da-da, and the next thing, they're in a jingle company together, and he supported his family, sent them through college, lived in one house and had a summer place somewhere else, all from writing jingles.
About that. Isn't that how Barry Manilow started out, too? Wasn't he a jingle writer at first?
He did.
Yeah.
Like a good neighbor,
State Farm
is here.
The guy who sang that lived here in Nashville. I worked with him at Lexus a few years ago. Great guy. Hey, listen, I've got to take a break. But when we come back, I want to hear another song. I want to talk to you more. Molly Leikin is our guest. The book, you got to get this book. It just published yesterday, Inside Secrets to Hit Songwriting in the Digital Age. If you're a songwriter, this is just chock full of some great things for you. So don't go away. Be right back.
You're listening to the Songwriter Connection, connecting with music makers and hearing their songs and stories. Now back to the show with your host, Dave Linehan.
We're back with Molly Leikin. She is an amazing songwriter, an amazing career, but she gives back. She teaches and she mentors, and she's got students that have just done some amazing things. Here's a great, I want you just to go to her webpage, which is songmd.com. You'll read more about her. You'll get a chance to hear some of the songs she's written, and she's written with everybody.
You know what I wanted to make sure to mention, Dave?
Okay.
Is that so many people who come to me are lyricists.
Yes.
Some of them are poets, some of them are lyricists, and they have 3 jobs, and they don't know how to monetize their work.
Right.
So the first thing I teach them is, say this, I'm a lyricist, instead of, I'm just a lyricist.
I hate when people say,
be proud of what you do, because
I always try to tell them
without the lyrics,
so important.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Without the lyrics, nobody would need a singer, and they could be replaced instantly by trombones.
Right.
So if you write lyrics, you're absolutely essential to the process. And don't let anybody say nobody pays attention to the words.
Well,
Believe me, they do.
I couldn't agree more. I used to do a lot of work with NSAI, the Nashville Songwriters Association International.
Oh, yeah.
I was one of the coordinators in Cincinnati, and I always used to hate it when they would come in and go, well, I'm just a lyricist. Like, what do you mean you're just a lyricist? What
Good
do you
for
mean?
you.
That's important. You have all the ideas that we're looking for, right? So, you're never just a lyricist. Yeah, you're a songwriter, right? Exactly.
You're essential. I'm a lyricist. I write lyrics.
Right.
You got to practice it like you lift weights. I write lyrics.
Love it.
Anyway, I interrupted you.
No, that's okay.
Go ahead.
I go on tangents, as you might have found out already. We call it Squirrel Train. Squirrel. We just wrote a song called Squirrel Train. But anyway, yeah, I'm trying to get back back on track, Molly. For people that are starting out in the industry, you've got so much to offer. How does it start with, like, if I went to songmd.com, how does it all start with you?
Well, first I want everybody to read some of the blogs on my website, the free blogs that are relevant to what you do. If you're a lyricist, there's a whole group of those blogs. Mm-hmm. If you're a singer-songwriter, there's a whole group of those. And then there's networking.
So important. Yeah.
So, they say that 10% inspiration, 90% perspiration.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm not sure about those percentages, but boy, the ones who have the hits are the ones who make one more phone call or send one more email or go to one more writer's night. Because your job is to be out where people are listening to you.
How about that?
Maybe they come to the club to hear somebody else, but there you are. You're at the Bluebird.
Well, yeah, which is an amazing place.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. How about we hear another song? I'm going to go down this list here and pick, how about I Hit the Jackpot? When we play that, tell us a little bit about that. Another song that you wrote? Was this
I wrote it with Art Munson, and our publisher stuck his name on it. He was promptly fired.
Does that happen?
But anyway, it's I defy you not to sing it. Please play it.
You got it. Here we go. Another strong groove. Yes, you did. You hit the jackpot just by making the connection today with Molly Leikin, our guest, on the Songwriter Connection podcast. That is an infectious song and a great groove and a great beat.
Thank you. If I ever heard a song that was perfect for a casino, that's it.
You're right. And there's a lot of casinos popping up everywhere. So, So there you go. I mean, I imagine you're pitching to them, huh?
I'm pitching always to everybody.
Always. I love it.
Sometimes I lose track.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to talk my podiatrist into something.
You have a song for a podiatrist?
No, I'm kidding. Just when I'm at his office, I am always pitching something. So
I love it. Always pitching, always out there pitching. I imagine, and a lot of artists today, they're pitching on their own, but someone will hire a plugger to do that. Is that anything you've ever done?
No.
What you've done, you're with publishing companies that do that kind of work for you, right? But now you're pitching on your own.
Well, I pitch on my own, and I have a staff that pitches the songs I co-write with my exceptional new writers.
Mm-hmm.
But I would not pay a plugger because the minute you stop paying them, they lose interest.
Yeah.
And I know it's a common practice in some places,
mm-hmm.
and it's exciting for a writer to think, oh boy, he's going to see this one, this one, this one, this one. But show me the money.
Yeah.
So that's my experience, and that's the only thing I can speak to.
I got you.
You need a team. We all need a team. And often the songwriter is the creator and is very sensitive and is steamrolled if somebody says no.
Yeah.
And so there's somebody else in the family who does the pitching. And that's fine. But as long as we have a grasp of reality, that can move forward. I know lots of people. Apparently, Jimmy Webb's wife does all his pitching.
Really?
Yeah, now. And she's good. She gets a lot of records. It's amazing.
What an amazing songwriter, too. Yeah.
Oh, the best.
Yeah.
Wasn't for him and Bob Dylan and Carole King, I'd be a corporate executive at IBM. I'd be wearing shoulder pads and saying no to a lot of things on the executive floor. Boy, I'd hate that. But anyway, I'd just be sure that the people you hook up with, the first thing I ask them is, what are your most recent hits? Well, back in the 50s and so on. No. What's on the radio now? What's on the air now that you pitched or that you placed? And if they don't have current answers, don't go there.
Gotcha.
As songwriters, we want desperately to hear the yes. We will do anything to hear the yes.
Molly, what if you're just
and
starting
it
off?
has to be legitimate, yes.
Mm-hmm.
All over my Facebook, there are people with deals, quote unquote deals.
Mm-hmm.
And I coach them all.
Right.
Ask them the tough questions. And if their answers are not realistic, this is your life.
Right.
You may write a song that makes $10 million, and maybe you never have another song that makes anywhere near that. Maybe that's your one-hit wonder. You want your money.
Right.
You want your royalties. Be sure you get it right.
I got you.
And so don't be so anxious for the yes that it really turns into a mess.
I got you.
I guess I just wrote a little jingle there.
Yes, you did.
But anyway, I'm always here for
Okay.
my clients at songmd.com
Okay.
to help you avoid the bad deals and to help you raise the level of your writing so that it can realistically compete with the very best songs and the artists out there.
I got you. And thank God for what you do.
thank you.
You talked. Before we went on. You talked. We were talking about demos because I really enjoyed the production quality of what I'm hearing on your webpage and the songs that you've written. And you were saying demos are not really a thing anymore. And I wanted to get more on that.
Well, back in the day, we'd have a keyboard player and a singer.
Mm-hmm.
Now you need to produce a master quality song that somebody can just plop into the movie or the TV show. Nobody re-records anything on the other side of the desk anymore. So a lot of people who can produce great tracks are getting placements.
Gotcha.
So you can't send them a demo. You can't send them a piano voice demo. And certainly stay away from those places that will write you, if you send them a lyric, they'll send you a melody and a recording because they've used the same melody 80 times already that day.
Probably, yeah.
And the singers have lost their voices.
Mm-hmm.
So if it sounds too good to be true, it is.
It normally is, yes.
So you don't get a hit melody for $300.
No.
You get a very expensive coaster. And it's true. And there was one company that I actually closed down. I spend Sundays chasing down scams so my clients can avoid them.
Oh, that's great.
I've closed a bunch of those places. Some of them have popped up elsewhere with new names. But, wow.
Unbelievable. But it happens.
You know, there's people everywhere to tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah, that's true. So if you are a new songwriter starting out and you don't have those connections and you know, like you say, you want to know what do you have on the charts right now? What are you doing right now? Where do you go? How would you tell them to start, Molly?
Well, I'd suggest that new writers come to me. It's a very gentle, nurturing environment. My job is to help you get your songs to the point where they are as strong as they need to be to realistically compete in a very competitive marketplace. Important. Come to songmd.com, book a consultation with me. In the celebration of my new book, Insider Secrets to Hit Songwriting, in the digital age, I've reduced my fees by half.
Great.
And it's very easy to book an appointment with me, to pay for a consultation. And then we have our session either by phone or by Zoom.
Mm. Do you occasionally co-write with folks that you've met?
Sometimes I do if they have an extraordinary line or a riff hidden somewhere in there.
Yeah.
There was one client from New Zealand who had a song and there was a line buried inside about Santa was a cowboy now.
Mm.
And I thought, oh my God. And we wrote a Christmas song together, Santa's a Cowboy Now. And it's one of those songs that gets played every Christmas.
That's great.
But I would never have written that song without him.
Mm. Yeah, and that's always a market, Christmas songs too, right? Yeah.
Well, it is. I don't spend my life writing Christmas songs because Christmas is shorter every year. Yeah. It's like poor Mary, she's in labor for 10 minutes and that's it. Well, let's see some of my other. Well, the first song you played, Asia Africa, that's a collaboration.
Well,
with a new client.
And there's the other thing you can talk about too, is the importance of co-writing. We've talked a lot about how so many songs today are co-written and not just solo writes, and you encourage that, don't you?
I do, and I would do anything I could to get in the room with some of these major artists. And the way you're invited to be in the room is to have some credibility elsewhere. Like your friend Susie is the bass player for Jungle Jim, and Jungle Jim is the background singer for Pitsy Poo, and then suddenly you're hanging with Pitsy Poo, and Pitsy Poo is invited in the room to write with Maren Morris, and suddenly you're writing with Maren Morris.
Incredible.
And who cares whether you get 1/10 or 1/5 of the royalties for that song, you got your name on a hit song that's sung by Maren Morris.
And that's something for the resume there. Absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's cool.
And it's all, but you're building a persona and you're building a resume, and it's now Friday, but you're not going to be at the Grammys on Sunday. You have to realize it's a process.
Mm-hmm.
And you go to medical school for how many years? 10 years? Maybe you don't have to go to songwriting school that long, but you do need to learn your craft. Instinct is a great place to start, but craft takes over from there.
Gotcha. Wonderful.
And you can, I've taught clients of mine in just a few months to create market-ready songs. So it depends on your motivation, and people have jobs, people have families.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like they have the luxury I do of time. I write songs all the time. And I'm in the music business all the time. But I don't have a corporate job, and I don't have babies. And so I can obsess more than most people can. But
eventually,
I set aside time every day, and I tell my clients to do this too. Write in your appointment book, writing, Monday through Friday, 15 minutes. Now, nobody has 2 hours all the time, but you do have 15 minutes. And I tell my clients, lock yourself in the bathroom if you have to, because nobody's going to bother you there. This is uninterrupted time. And write a little bit of something every single day, and at the end of the week, you're going to have something. Those 15 minutes add up.
Yeah, they do. Make an appointment with
and
yourself.
And even if the page is blank, Dave,
mm-hmm.
at least your subconscious is cranking on something, and you may be opening your car door, and what do you know?
Mm.
Write it down, because if you don't treasure your ideas, they're going to go into somebody else's head, and next month you'll be listening to the radio. Wait a minute, that's my song. No, it was your song, but you didn't honor it, so bye-bye.
Oh, isn't that amazing how creativity works? Amazing.
Yeah, I've written on my leg. I've written on egg cartons at the market. I've written on other people's egg cartons at the market.
Mm-hmm.
And ideas are currency.
So always be thinking about those ideas and writing them down.
Always.
This is all great advice from our guest today, Molly Leikin. Let me play another song, and then we'll be back to wrap it up. This is one called Somewhere Left of Texas. Somewhere Left of Texas. That's an interesting title.
Yeah.
I had a publisher once said you should have the song if it's got a title and it makes me say I've got to find out what that's all about. That's what you're after. And when it's Somewhere Left of Texas.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's one of those songs. Yeah.
Thank you.
What can you tell us about it?
Well, it was sent to me for consultation by a guy named Bob Algie, and that line was buried in the lyric. Mm. And I started to scream, and my assistant came in. What's the matter? Are you okay? I said, look at this line. So we've heard west of Texas, north of Texas, east of Texas, but we've never heard left of Texas.
Never.
And so we created this whole wonderful story. And I defy anybody not to sing that chorus.
Let's give it a listen. Here we go. Somewhere Left of Texas on the Songwriter Connection podcast.
I was out of gas. The AAA was slow. It was raining. I was freezing. You pulled up and smiled, let's go. I'm not sure of anything else except I was with you. Never been a person these things happen to. We went east, maybe
That is so cool, Molly. It really is. And
Well, I also really stress that you've got to have an irresistibly sing-alongable chorus.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
And your job as a songwriter to build a chorus into your song that after hearing it once, the audience is singing along with you.
That's the goal.
And if they're not, you haven't done your job.
Molly, I feel like I'm just scratching the surface with you. I hope that we can do this again sometime because you are just a fountain of knowledge. And I just appreciate you passing it on, not only to me, but to all of our listeners on Songwriter Connection podcast. You really are amazing. And I'm just honored to have met you and spent some time with you. I really am.
Well, you ask great questions, Dave, and I hope your listeners will contact me.
I do too.
At songmd.com. I'm here to help everybody become the best songwriter they possibly can be.
And do yourself a favor, folks. Get the book because you're going to love the book. And again, it's called
Insider Secrets to Hit Songwriting in the Digital Age.
That's right, which is today. So, Molly, thank you so much. All the best to you. And I'll be in touch. I'd love to do this again. I think there's so much more.
Thank you, Dave. I'm always here for you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Songwriter Connection podcast. Find us on social media at Songwriter Connection. Also, listen to Dave Lanahan's Nashville Connections radio show. It streams live every Friday morning on WOBL and WNOI. Look for us on Facebook and YouTube. See you next time on Songwriter Connection.